Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into Update 20 of Anime Adventures, and you already know what that means. It's time for a brand new tier list. With this update bringing in fresh units, balance changes, and possibly some new metas, we're going to break down which units are dominating and which ones just don't make the cut. We'll be ranking units from S tier, the absolute must-haves, all the way down to those that might not be worth your gems. Whether you're a veteran looking for the best units to grind with or a new player trying to figure out what's worth summoning, this tier list has got you covered. Make sure to stick around until the end so you don't miss any crucial rankings, and if you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out and ensures you stay up to date with the latest anime adventures guides, tier lists, and updates. Now, let's get straight into it. C tier explained, average but usable. Now, let's take a look at the C tier units in Anime Adventures Update 20. These characters aren't necessarily bad, but they fall short compared to the higher tier options due to their cost, damage output, or utility. Most of these units have average stats, which means they can still be useful in early to mid-game stages, but they start to struggle as enemies become stronger. Among the C-tier units, Flamingo and Tango stand out as some of the highest DPS dealers in this tier. They have solid attack stats, but their SPA, seconds per attack, makes them less efficient compared to A or S-tier units. They're still viable in certain situations, but they often require a lot of upgrades to truly shine, which isn't ideal when managing resources. Then we have CEO, one of the few farming units in the game. While he doesn't contribute much in terms of damage, his ability to generate yen makes him an excellent choice for players who don't have access to better economy units. If you're struggling to afford expensive units, CEO can help, but there are better farming options available. Another interesting unit in this tier is Merlin, who brings a magic damage buff to surrounding allies. This makes her useful in magic-heavy team compositions, but her impact is limited compared to top-tier support units. If you lack other buffers, she can be a decent pick, but you won't find her in any high-level meta teams. On the defensive side, Agony and Operator are useful for pushing back enemies, but their effectiveness depends on positioning and upgrade investment. If you don't have better crowd control options, they can serve a purpose, but they won't carry your team in harder stages. Most of the units in C tier share a common problem: they either have high DPS but a slow attack rate, or they require too much yen to upgrade efficiently. This makes them inconsistent for late-game content. If you're forced to use them, I'd highly recommend including a farming unit in your team to compensate for their high upgrade costs. While C tier units aren't completely useless, they're just outclassed by stronger alternatives. If you're a new player, they can help you progress, but once you unlock higher tier characters, you'll want to replace them as soon as possible. B tier explained, strong support but not meta. Moving on to B tier, these units are better than average but still fall short of being top tier picks. They serve as great support units and can complement stronger attackers in battle. While they aren't the best for damage output, their utility, range, or buffs make them valuable in specific scenarios. First, we have Roger, Skull Knight, and Carrot, Super 3. These three units shine in raids, where having consistent damage and survivability is crucial. Roger has a solid attack radius and can hold his own in longer fights. Skull Knight brings reliable AoE damage, making him useful for clearing waves. Carrot, Super 3, provides strong single-target DPS, helping to take down boss enemies faster. If you're running raids, having one or more of these units can make your run smoother. Next up is Gravity Navy, a unit known for its massive range. This makes him a good choice for battles where the map is covered with enemies. His ability to hit multiple targets over long distances ensures that no enemy escapes easily. However, he lacks raw damage output, which is why he falls short of A tier. Finally, we have Atukada, a unit that boosts allies within its range. Having buffing abilities in your team is always helpful, especially when paired with strong DPS units. Atukada can significantly increase damage output, making other units perform even better. While Atukada isn't as impactful as higher tier buffers, he can still be useful in certain team compositions. Overall, B-tier units are solid choices if you're looking for support, range, or raid utility, but they don't carry a team on their own. They work best when combined with stronger S or A-tier units. If you don't have better alternatives, they can definitely help, but once you unlock stronger characters, you'll likely swap them out. A-tier explained, powerful but just short of meta. Now, let's talk about the A-tier units in Anime Adventures Update 20. These characters are among the best in the game, offering high damage, strong utility, or excellent support abilities. However, they don't quite reach S-tier because of small weaknesses that hold them back, whether it's higher cost, longer cooldowns, or slightly lower effectiveness in certain situations. Starting with Gilgamesh and BYU, these two stand out for their high DPS and AoE damage. If you're dealing with waves of scattered enemies, they are fantastic picks. Gilgamesh is known for his powerful multi-target attacks, while BYU has consistent area coverage, making them both ideal for clearing large groups of enemies quickly. If you're struggling with maps that have tons of enemies, these two can easily clean up waves. Now, let's talk about some of the best supporting units in the game: Dazai, Geo, Bulby, Kasoko, and Lulu. These units don't necessarily deal the highest damage, but their effects and abilities make them essential for certain team comps. Geo and Lulu specialize in halting enemies, which gives your damage-dealing units extra time to wipe them out. This is crucial in higher-level stages, where enemies move too fast to be taken down instantly. Dazai brings a unique ability: he can remove all enemy attributes within his range. This is extremely useful against bosses or enemies with annoying buffs, making fights much more manageable. Bulby and Kasoko serve as great support picks, providing team-wide benefits that enhance your overall strategy. Finally, we have Calm Killer, an excellent damage dealer when placed at strategic corners. His swift attacks allow him to constantly pressure enemies, making him an ideal pick for maps with tight turns or long enemy paths. If you position him correctly, he can output consistent and high-burst damage, making him a great semi-DPS unit. Overall, A-tier units are highly effective and worth using, but they might need better positioning, team synergy, or more investment compared to S-tier units. If you don't have access to top-tier characters, these are some of the best alternatives you can rely on. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Before we jump into the S-tier units, if you've made it this far, make sure to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and lets us keep bringing you the best Anime Adventures content, including tier lists, updates, and guides. Also, let us know in the comments which units you think deserve a higher or lower ranking. S-tier explained, the meta-defining units. Now, let's talk about the S-tier units. These are the best of the best in Anime Adventures Update 20. These characters define the meta, boasting insane stats in DPS, range, SPA, and utility. If you have any of these units, you should definitely be using them in your main lineup. First, we have Vago, a mythical unit that combines the best traits of Carrot, Super 3, and Vago, Mage. While upgrading him is extremely expensive, he makes up for it by dealing massive damage. If you can afford to fully upgrade him, he can carry your entire team through tough battles. Next up are Griffin and Ans, two units that specialize in high AoE damage. Their ability to clear large groups of enemies quickly makes them some of the strongest DPS units in the game. If you're facing maps where enemies spawn in huge numbers, these two can wipe them out effortlessly. We also have Berserker and Alucard, two bleed damage dealers. Bleed effects are extremely strong in the current meta, as they allow you to stack damage over time. If you're dealing with tanky enemies or bosses, these units can drain their HP quickly. Finally, we have Shinobi, Awakened, the best burn unit in the game. Burn effects work similarly to bleed, dealing continuous damage that helps you shred through enemies. If you need a high DPS, AoE burn unit, Shinobi, Awakened, is a must-have for your team. These S-tier units are essential if you want to dominate the game. Whether it's raw damage, AoE clearing, or powerful status effects, these units are on a completely different level compared to the rest of the tier list. If you manage to pull any of them, invest in them as much as possible.